much in between, things we've never seen. You're a mirage that my mind can't see through. Are you here with me? One day we can see. And all my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes way. All my me to pay. I don't know I have to.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was the most awesome intro ever. You were listening to Generation Orange, a Houston soccer, and we've now figured out the term, or at least I finally have figured out a term, internet show and podcast. We air every week at 7 p.m. Central until usually about 9 p.m. Central, sometimes 10 depending on the week. So we appreciate, first of all of you that are tuning in. This week's show is literally packed. I don't know if I could have fit anything else in those notes. Like, that was crazy. It's been a fun week prepping for this thing, but it's been a crazy week to say the least. So today, if you have somehow been living under a Twitter rock, we have scheduled for Andrew Wiebe from MLS Soccer calling in. We have scheduled for Jesus Acevedo from Pro Soccer USA to call in. And they'll be talking the Tomas red card. They'll be talking the media stuff with the referee that happened after the match. We're going to talk U.S. Open Cup semifinal and give away a pair of tickets live during the show today, which is pretty amazing. And we're going to talk RGV. And I know that sounds like, not a whole lot of stuff, considering sometimes in 2 hours we fit a whole lot more than that in. But I promise you, we're going to get to about an hour and 45 minutes and be like, oh my gosh, we have 15 minutes left of this show. What are we going to do? Like we're going to be like scrambling to figure out how to fit the rest of everything we have to talk about in 15 minutes. So it's been a crazy week. I think that's an understatement from all aspects of this thing.
Yes, trying to get this show together. And as you probably could tell, and this was mostly my fault, the Generation Orange show is going under construction with new layouts, new
We're
scenes.
up in our game. We're
Yes.
up in our game. We are, we have talked it over. We've worked
We're
it
gonna
out.
stick to it.
And that's a given. And we're working through a couple of things that we're trying to add to the show to just up that enjoyment level, entertainment factor, and to give us some extra tools and resources we haven't had up to this date. So please keep sticking with us. We really do appreciate you guys that tune in each week live. And we really appreciate you guys that tune in after the fact and listen or watch later on YouTube or however else. Speaking of, we are definitely looking for somebody. If you are capable of or know someone capable of or someone with experience in audio editing, we would love to speak with you and speak with them. Please hit us up either on our Twitter at Gen Orange Radio or hit me up on our Twitter or my Twitter at Sean Ringrose. And we will be happy to talk and try to work something out. We really need somebody that can do some audio editing for us week over week. With that said, I don't even know where to start, because we're supposed to do that. We did the show preview. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. That's you're absolutely right. And I mean, to be fair, that's the bulk of this show, right? The first hour is pretty much dedicated to that. The red card, the referee himself, VAR, and then kind of what happened after the fact. I mean, the entire first hour is literally devoted to that. But I tell you what, the second hour we're going to open up, and when we get to the second hour, we're going to give those tickets away. So make sure you're make sure you're tuned in now. But
So what do
definitely
they
tune
have
in.
to do? What do they have to do to win those tickets?
It's really, really simple. All you have to do is be in the YouTube chat when we give them away, and it's going to be given. They'll be given away roughly at 8:10 Central Time, roughly, give or take. So you'll want to be in there anywhere between 8 and 8:15 to make sure you are eligible to win the tickets.
And you have to be sure to be subscribed.
You have to be subscribed, and you need to follow us on Twitter. That is important.
Just Gen Orange Radio.
Yeah, just the Gen Orange Radio, not all of our Twitter. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, at Gen Orange Radio. So make sure you follow us. That'd be fantastic.
Hi, Darby.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Darby. I actually got to meet Darby. I got to say this before we get into our next thing. I actually got to meet Darby when I went out to the Texian Army watch party for the Timbers match, the away party at Pitch 25. I had told her that I was going to go to that, and I said that, said it publicly, so I kind of committed to it. But I wanted to send a shout out to Cisco, who went with me, and got to experience all that in all its wonderful glory. And actually, I need to call Pitch 25 because they overcharged me by about $80 for my drinks.
What?
Yeah, a single beer and a Sprite does not cost $105. So I need to call them and get
What
that
is this?
situated.
GTA economy or what?
Brian Ching, if you're listening, I need to speak with you like pronto. No, I think it was just a mistake, and I just need to call them and get it sorted. I just didn't have time today. Today was kind of a busy day. So you definitely hit the nail on the head with the box. So in the match against, who were we playing? Because I don't even remember. It's been a week now. Philly.
Union.
It was Philadelphia Union. We were playing
That's because we
Philadelphia.
ate the Philly cheesesteak.
I didn't even think about that. That's so funny. In the match against the Philadelphia Union, it was about the 56th minute, give or take, roughly right around there. Yes. Tomas, the ball was played into the box. Tomas had the ball or was going for the ball. The defender got to the ball first, stuck his leg out, got to the ball first, and Tomas, in going for the ball, in trying to go for the ball to make a play on the ball, he stepped on the guy's ankle. I will not argue he stepped on the ankle. There's no doubt in this, in the freeze frames and everything. He definitely stepped on his ankle. The problem is he didn't immediately give the red card. He did call for the foul or whatever. He stopped play for that. But then he took, I don't know how long it was. It felt like hours, but it was probably just a minute or two to talk to the VAR officials. And then he walked over to the VAR monitor. He watched it for about 30 seconds or so. It was quite a while as well. And then he walked back. He made the VAR motion, and he subsequently gave Tomas a red card. Twitter was afire with how bad that call was, and it wasn't just from Dynamo fans. What got me about this call is we had Philadelphia Union fans even saying this call is bad, so bad it was disgusting.
Failhaber or what?
Yeah, Benny Failhaber tweets out that he's pretty much done with Pro because of how bad that call was. Like when SKC fans who notoriously hate the Dynamo were basically backing the Dynamo at this point. And yes, Cisco, we will get to that in a minute about the actual game situation at the time that this call was made. But it was just incredible because it's like, how can you with VAR go over and take that much time and turn around and say that's definitely a red card? And the thing is, with VAR, it is supposed to be a clear and obvious missed red card call. Mm-hmm. It has to be clear and obvious. And let's fast forward a little bit, a couple of days, and the MLS disciplinary committee / pro disciplinary committee comes out and rescind the red card. So clearly, in their view, it was not clear and obvious. So how can the official on the pitch and the VAR official go, this is so abundantly clear and obvious that we have to call this? Mm-hmm. So now, Cisco makes a good point, and I said we would talk about it, so let's just go ahead and do it. The game situation, the match is tied 1-1. Dynamo are absolutely pounding Philadelphia Union offensively. They are creating chance after chance after chance. Tomas is a huge part of this process because he's that pivot between the defense and the attack. He is absolutely that guy. And so the call is made, and unsurprisingly, when you make a call of that nature and a team goes up by a man, suddenly the entire outlook and entire flow of the game changes. That match immediately went from Dynamo dominating not only possession and dominating shots on goal and chances. Philadelphia started finding chances very quickly because they had an extra man. And
then taking advantage of the counters as
absolutely,
well.
Yeah. The Dynamo, because it was a home match, they had to push to try to get that extra goal, to try to get that lead. And then there wasn't much longer after that Philadelphia, and actually it was before that even the first Philly goal was questionable with an missed offsides potential call as well. And I still say the guy was offsides because whoever was the forward there, he interferes with the play, and he was offside at the time the ball was played. So therefore, it had to be offside.
Yeah, I think it was Corey Burke.
Yeah, Corey. I don't know if that was Corey Burke or not.
Was it Fafa Pico?
It wasn't Pico, no. But either way, I mean, it was just
Burke.
Yeah, either way, it was just crazy. It was, and that just, I mean, that missed call combined with the red card, combined with everything else that happened later in that match, and that's at the 56th minute, and it got worse from there. It did not settle. It got way worse from there. The referee set the intensity and set the mood of that match, and fans absolutely let him have it, and rightfully so. There is no doubt in my mind that should have never been a red card. In no league in any part of this world, except perhaps CONCACAF, in Central America, where they go flying when you touch them. Anywhere else, it's not a red card. It's just not. There's not enough there to make.
Could have been a yellow.
I can see a foul and I can see a yellow card. Absolutely, 100%. Now, in my opinion, this referee was exerting force exerting his authority onto Tomas, who had demonstratively, a while before, basically told the ref that he sucked. I didn't see nor hear those exact words, but I could see their interaction taking place, and I could tell that Tomas was pissed off at the ref. To be fair, the ref prior to that had been very bad as well. And so it was just really, really, really bad. That's fair commendable as well. It was just really bad. It set the tone of the match, and unfortunately, it swayed the match so heavily in Philly's favor. And this is a home match and at a point of our season where 3 points is absolutely vital to our season. It can make or break us getting into the playoffs. And a referee took those 3 points away from the Dynamo. Literally, there is no doubt in my mind he took 3 points away from the Dynamo. I think with Tomas on the field, we scored not just one, but another 2 goals at minimum. We were pushing so hard, and we had so many quality chances. Yes. And even like I said, and even Philly fans were disgusted at what happened. They were absolutely just appalled at how bad the officiating was. And not only did Benny Feilhaber tweet that, but Iko Parra retweeted him and basically echoed the same sentiment on Twitter. So these are players that have a history of hating the Dynamo, and they're tweeting out in support of the Dynamo, basically saying the Dynamo got screwed. And so it was just crazy to me. It was absolutely crazy. With that said, we're actually going to go to our first break. We're going to reach out to Andrew and get him on the phone. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this red card. I hope you guys stay tuned.
What's going on with my...
Are we muted?
But I'm foolish. I needed you. Know that I've been missing. But I'm foolish. I needed you. Know that I've been missing. But I'm foolish. I needed you. Know that I've been missing. But I'm foolish. I needed you.
And we're back. You're listening to Generation Orange, a Houston Dynamo RGV Toros internet show and podcast. We have on the phone none other than Andrew Wiebe. And I want to start this off, Mr. Wiebe, with a little friendly chuckle. You were so certain that that red card was not going to be rescinded that you engaged in a gentleman's wager, if we will, for a pound of coffee with me. Mm-hmm. And how did that turn out for you?
I lost it, but I'm going to have to call in video review on you right now. VAR, I'm making the signal here because my last name is Wiebe.
Oh,
Wiebe.
Wiebe.
You just dropped Wiebe twice.
Wiebe.
You're lucky I don't hang up because that is like...
So
telemarketer 101, man.
Okay, so Andrew, I will say this: you had posted, I don't know, about a year ago, a video that actually was you explaining, or not, I don't know if it was a video, but it was something explaining how to pronounce your name. I looked it up today, and I couldn't find it. So just so you know, I did my due diligence, and I just couldn't find it. And I went and I found, and just so you know, I went and found a pronunciation guide for your last name, and it says Wiebe. So just so you know,
man. This explains a lot. This explains like 30 years of me hanging up on cold calling people to me. That's the tell. If you say the last name wrong, I know you don't know me, and so I just hang up the phone.
Oh, that's
in this case, I'll stay on the line because I am still sticking by my take. It is insane that this thing was rescinded. I just can't understand it for a lot of different reasons.
So, okay.
Not only that it went to video review and that they reviewed it and they came back and made that decision, but it's essentially a judgment call.
Well,
do you think that this endangers the safety of the opponent, or don't you? And if you do, then it can be a red card. If you don't, it's not a red card. But I don't know how you can look at his tackle and say that that does not endanger the safety when he gets him full-on 6 studs above the ankle.
If we're going to say that, there was a tackle 5 minutes before that by Philly that should have been a red card as well. I mean, we can't.
Well, if you want to re-referee every single motion in the game,
no, and that's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying, though. But here's the thing: if the disciplinary committee is coming by after the fact and they've got every angle on this, they've got every opportunity to slow it down. They look at it and they go, "It is not clearly endangering the safety of this player." Now, did he step on his ankle? Yes, but is that clearly endangering his safety? No, he didn't go in trying to break his ankle. Come on now.
It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what he's trying to do. It has
intent. No. Intent has every intent.
It doesn't have
intent. No, intent has everything to do with this. If the guy's intent is to
you're not reading the rule book.
What are you?
You're not reading the rule book if you think that.
Go
read the rule book. Go Control F that rule book and try to find me intent because it's not there. It doesn't matter what you intend to do. It matters what you did. And in this case, he was late. He didn't get the ball, and he stomped on a player's ankle.
No, that is not a stomp.
If you thought I was going to come on this show and be convinced.
Oh no! I knew you weren't going to be convinced. There was never a question of that. I wasn't expecting to sway your opinion. I knew I wasn't going to do that. That wasn't a question. My concern, though, is that you sitting up at MLS headquarters doing these content videos can sit here and say that that's definitely a red card and then turn around a week later and come out and say, nope, that's not a red card to a very similar type of challenge. I'll have to pull up the video. You know, it to me, there's a lot of picking.
What was that? What's the second challenge that I said wasn't a red card?
Go ahead, Edson.
Careless, reckless, and using excessive force. This is from FIFA.
Excessive force. That was not excessive.
Careless means that the player has shown a lack of attention or consideration when making his challenge or that he acted without precaution. Reckless means that the player has acted with complete disregard of the danger to or consequences for his opponent.
Yeah, this isn't reckless. It's serious foul play. Reckless would be a yellow card.
Okay, so serious foul play. Pull that one up.
The rule is either endangering the safety opponent or keyword or excessive force or brutality.
And that wasn't excessive force. And I mean, you agree with that part, right?
That's why I emphasized the or.
Okay, there are 7 offenses for which a player substitute or substituted player can be sent off and showed the red card if he's guilty of serious foul play, which is a player is guilty if he uses excessive force or brutality against an opponent when challenging for the ball when it is in play. Using excessive force means
if you're reading from FIFA, you're reading the wrong rule book right now. You need to go find the IFAB rule book. because that is the arbiter of the rules as pertains to every professional game, including MLS games.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing I got for you, Weeby. This is a real simple question. Are you telling me that you see more in this than the disciplinary committee did?
Apparently, because I am shocked.
So then
5 people would look at this and say, without a shred of doubt, that this is not a red card. And
Well,
I get it. Look, I understand where you guys are coming from. He's trying to get in there and get a shot off. Completely get that. He's attempting to do that, but he does not do that.
well,
He gets in late and he stomps on a defenseless
no,
player
that's not
who
a
just
stomp.
cleared The ball.
That your definition of a stomp,
a stomp.
You need to go to some MMA classes and toughen up, Andrew. That is not a stomp in any league in the world. No league in the world constitutes that as a stomp. He steps. He does not stomp. He didn't force his foot down on his ankle and try to break it. That's a stomp. He stepped.
We're
made a
not
play at
agreeing
the
on the
ball and he
definition of stomp.
stepped at the ball. He
stomp
tackled at the ball.
When you with well, now you're calling it a tackle. You're calling
That's
it
not a
tackle.
stomp. That's not a stomp.
Okay, here it is.
It's a
Serious
foul,
foul play. A tackle or
It's
challenge.
1,000% a foul.
Tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality must be sanctioned a serious foul play. I don't see any brutality.
No, that's what he said. But the or in there makes sense. I'll give you this, Andrew, that there is a possibility that they can read into it and they could see a red card. My problem is the way that official was officiating the entire match, that was never a red card. I need my officials to be consistent match in, match out. And if they can't be consistent across 90 minutes of play, they shouldn't be on the pitch. This was his 5th match. He was inexperienced, and it showed in every way, shape, or form. He absolutely let the emotion of that match get to him. He let the emotion of the way
But here's the thing. That went to video review. So the referee at the time did not make that call. So I don't agree with you that the emotion of the match got to him. Because he had an opportunity in a vacuum while looking at a screen with counsel from another referee to make that call. So in my mind, it's absolutely not emotion.
No, it's still emotion because he can still look at that video with his own emotion. That doesn't mean the second referee that's sitting back there, which if I'm not mistaken was Ismail Elfath, that doesn't mean he's not sitting there watching it and going, well, it could be. That doesn't mean that he necessarily made the call. VAR can say, well, this has a possibility.
There's no could be.
No, there absolutely is because VAR can sit there and look at it. Yes, because VAR does not have to have clear evidence. They have to have a reasonable doubt to say this could be a red card. Here, look at it. They don't have to go. It's absolutely a red card.
How many times has even VAR had, even in the World Cup?
How many times has the head referee overruled VAR? I've seen it. I've seen it tons where they'll sit there and they'll talk to the VAR ref, and I know that there's a clear and obvious thing.
Okay, well that didn't happen in this case. You have to have clear and obvious evidence that an error has been made.
And clearly, the disciplinary committee.
You come take a look at it.
No, and look, I'll agree with you that they're looking at it in real time, but they're looking at it in real time, and that's the difference. They're looking at it in real time. When the disciplinary committee look at it after, they have slow-mo, they look at it, they take everything into account. When the disciplinary committee after the fact takes a day and a half, that is absurd in terms of how quickly they did that. They don't make decisions in a day and a half. They just don't.
It's pretty obvious why it was so quick. Come on, it's pretty obvious. It's because there's a game coming up.
What is that? What do they care? It's Tomas. He's not a valuable piece of this league. What do they care? What do they gain out of rescinding that red card?
I don't know, maybe because the entire team is relying on one player playing in a game. And
you're going to tell me that this team is relying on Tomas Martinez when Kyoto has 11 assists? Oh, wait, 11 assists and now 4 goals when Elise has 9.
That Wilmer Cabrera is cool with this being just like drawn out just to make sure? No,
but why?
So because there's a game.
So, but now you're telling me that the disciplinary committee should be taking in the actual seasonal situation into account? They should not be looking at these things in a vacuum? You're telling me that they're weighing these things?
I'm telling you that if he's suspended for that next game, which he was, there is an obligation to take a look at it and make a decision before that game comes. Otherwise, what's the point?
And they made the decision the day before the match when they said they would take up to match time before they made the decision. So they still had an additional 24 hours before they actually made their decision.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here telling you that I don't agree with the disciplinary committee. That's okay. I'm not on the committee.
Thank God.
If I was, it wouldn't be unanimous.
I've watched enough instant replay to appreciate that. You've made a few good calls, and then you've made some that I just completely disagree with. But I'm also a fan.
But that's the nature of the game.
Absolutely.
This isn't a black and white thing. Everyone is always going to have differing opinions, and right and wrong, frankly, it doesn't really matter. It's
if everybody's going to have
take on that play.
So let me ask you a question, and we didn't. You don't have to answer it. I'm going to throw it out there. But if we as fans can have differing opinions, why do we leave it up to the interpretation of the ref when we know that they're going to have differing opinions? That means that any given match, what could be constituted as a red card for Ismail Alfath may absolutely not be a red card for Baldomero Toledo. What constitutes a serious foul play for another ref may not constitute for a different ref. My problem is, where's the consistency in MLS officiating? Where's the consistency in officiating in general, specifically MLS officiating? Not only that, where's the accountability? If this has been rescinded as a red card...
What are you talking about? Pro just came out and said an error was made and took a guy off the match over a missed call.
Yeah, and then right before they did another one with Orlando City.
Every league in the world, every referee has their own interpretation. That's one of the beautiful things about this game, in my opinion, is that it isn't always black and white. You have to parse the rule book, you have to put it through your own filters, and you have to make a decision. Then you have to own that decision.
Well, apparently this referee didn't own up to that decision.
So let me ask you this, Weeby, and this is a pretty simple. No. Let me ask you this.
He made the call.
Let me ask you this. Then what do we need instant replay for? Because if the officials can make whatever call they want based on their interpretation of the rules, then what do we need instant replay for? Like in your show, what do we need instant replay for?
Haven't you literally with this segment proved why instant replay exists?
Oh, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I do love it because we do get that different opinion.
And I do too. And I'm honestly like I'm playing a little bit of a
devil's
playing a little
advocate.
bit of a role with you here. But
I know you're a devil's advocate, and I love it.
I enjoy these discussions, and that's why this year instant replay has been so fun for me. It's also been super educating.
It has been. It's been good.
I didn't understand some of the gray area. I didn't understand the way that the rule book's interpreted. I didn't understand how, frankly, lacking in detail and specifics the rule book is.
Oh, it's very it's very
challenge.
It's very ambiguous, and it's almost intentionally ambiguous at times.
For sure. So it's been a huge challenge for me this year to really develop my own interpretation of the rules and apply that. And then obviously I have to own those. And yeah, I lost this bet. I was shocked.
Well,
I was
to be fair, I
thought this was a slam dunk.
Oh, to be fair to me, it was a 50-50. I wasn't certain. There was no doubt in my mind that the disciplinary committee could come back and say, no, that was definitely a red card. But on the flip side of it, I do think Dynamo fans, to some extent, were vindicated by the fact that the Disco came back and said that's not a red card, and rescinded the red card. And unfortunately, even though we're running out of time with you, my biggest concern over this is that call changes the absolute flow of this match. And, I've seen it in other instances where a call, and it's not just one call, but a call in the middle of a match can change the entire outlook of that second half. And if it's a bad call, if it's a call that isn't a quote unquote fair to the rules call, which in this case may not be, whatever, according to you, but if it's not, then that affects the outcome of this match. That can then turn around and affect the outcome of the entire season if we're talking at the end of the season and coming playoff position as 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But what I would tell you is that there's a system in place with video review. You may not have liked in the moment what came back on video review, and certainly Disco made their opinion known. But this is something that has happened for years. It's happened every single time an MLS team has taken the field. Every time a pro team takes the field, there's the possibility that a referee call will change the match. And that's part of the game. You're never going to get away from that. Nobody's going to give you the points back.
I didn't realize I was watching WWE when I turned the TV on to watch soccer anymore.
What do you mean?
If a referee has that kind of control,
no,
there's absolutely controversial calls.
Are you kidding me?
No, I love the controversial
calls. Come on, guys.
No, I do. You're not wrong.
Come on. I mean, this is part of the game. That's just the way it's been. And I think video review in a vacuum, and maybe for Houston Dynamo fans in this instance, it did not work. And certainly the club shouldn't be happy about the fact that they lost this game and saw a red card that was rescinded.
Well, and I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave it with this. There were players, MLS players, on Twitter that were just as appalled at the call as Dynamo fans. and these were players from other clubs. So take that into account too. That there were players that didn't see it the same way you do. I think the players expect a more physical game. So
I do it with Bobby Warshaw every single week. Let me
Boy,
tell
those
you that I don't necessarily trust the
ex-player point of view. Yeah, well, it's funny, right? Because we talked to
a certain way that they want it to be called.
Oh yeah, we talk to Eddie Robinson all the time, and I mean he's kind of the same way. He's but he's a former physical player, so I mean it's no surprise. The physical players, they see it a certain way.
Look, I'm pretty sure on instant replay, and I'm in between. I probably would have called this a yellow card in real time, just straight up. I think that's probably what I would have gone with.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was when I watched it back, when I saw the evidence that the disciplinary committee was going to look at, I just couldn't imagine that they were going to look at that and say, there's indisputable evidence here that this does not meet serious foul play. And that was where that bet came from for me, which is because I just think when you come in on a player like that and you don't get the ball and you get ankle, that's the definition of it endangering the safety of an opponent in a lot of ways. And if I stomped on one of your ankles in the same way, I think you'd probably agree with me. You may not think it's a red card.
No, I would pull
You would say that your safety was in danger.
No, I'd come up and I'd repeat the offense back at you. That's all. That's how it goes. No, we appreciate. Hey, Andrew, we really do appreciate having you on, and we definitely appreciate. I didn't say his last name. I said Andrew.
I'm just saying it.
We appreciate having you on.
I've had a ton of fun.
Good. So before you go, you want to let our listeners and our watchers know where they can find you on Twitter and also where they can find Instant Replay.
Yeah, send all hate mail directly to @Andrew_Weeby on Twitter. I'll be prepared for it. And then obviously Extra Time Radio twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and we do MLS Match Day Central. Basically, if you follow any MLS channels, you're going to see my face an awful lot. And you may like that or you may not like that, and that's okay.
Well, Andrew, thanks again for calling in. We really appreciate you joining us and talking this red card. We definitely appreciate your point of view, even if you are wrong. It's okay. It's allowed.
Seems legit.
On that note, man, have a good one and go enjoy the MLS All-Star Game festivities. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but I'm sure if people are following you and watching, they're gonna see it. So that's good enough, right?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. I know this has been a controversial thing for Dynamo fans and a lot of folks. I had a lot of fun. Please know that my vitriol and excitement comes down to passion and certainly not frustration with you guys and the questions. I had fun, so have a good show.
Good deal. Have a good one, Andrew. Bye.
Well, that was spicy.
That was fun. With that, we actually need to go to break because we're actually getting ready to have Jesus Acevedo call in and discuss more about this, actually, which is crazy. It wasn't just the red card. There was more to this that happened. So we'll talk about that when we get back here in about 2 minutes. Go ahead and you want to, answer the phone and do that thing. It's okay.
It wasn't.
Hold on, Abe.
They'll know how we do it. They'll never get it anyway. Conquering the impossible. All with a smile on our face. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. Grind all day, we dance all night. With body freaks and nature, with body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. With body freaks and nature, with body freaks, body freaks. Body freaks, body freaks. With body freaks and nature, with body freaks, body freaks.
The music is still playing.
Don't worry.
Oh, all right, cool. And we're back. So that was fun. Make sure you guys follow Weeby on Twitter, and make sure you guys tune into MLS Extra Time Radio every week, twice a week. But now we have somebody else on the line. Yay! Jesus Acevedo, who has to have an interesting story to tell for sure. So after the match, Jesus was picked to be the media pool reporter to ask the questions that of the head official for the match. And of course, he obviously had good questions to ask related to the calls and related to the red card and related to a couple other things. And Jesus, I'm going to let you describe or tell us and tell our listeners what took place when you were sitting there in the media room or in the area waiting for what? You waited, 30 minutes?
Yeah, pretty much. The procedure, how it works is that so I give the questions to the PR of the team, which in this case was Dynamo PR, 5 minutes after the match or anytime before then. And the Dynamo PR gives those questions to the referee locker room. They give them to the referees. And then from that moment, once they have those questions, they have 15 minutes to come out and respond to me, to the pool reporter, which is me in this case, and answer those questions verbally. They did not come out in those 15 minutes. I would say I'm saying 30 minutes, and I'm being nice with those 30 minutes. It was probably more. I know Dynamo PR was also there with me, and we were both confused why it was taking so long.
Yeah.
And so that's what the procedure is. That's what's stipulated in the contract between Pro and MLS, that they have to come out after those 15 minutes and answer the questions verbally. Now, take into account, they have these questions, so they know what I'm going to ask, because they have been handed these questions written down on a sheet of paper. So they're preparing themselves in these 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
Well, they took more than the 15 minutes, so they knew what they were going to answer. So that's another reason why I was mystified as to why they would take so long if they knew what the answers were going to be asked. So fast forward, they come out, like I say, it was probably more than 30 minutes. So they come out, and the official who refereed the match is supposed to come out. What happened was that the fourth official came out, and he handed me a sheet of paper with the answer, with the questions, but they were answered written, on the sheet of paper. They were written. And Zach and I, the Dynamo PR, were looking at each other, and Zach and I both tell them, no, we need to hear these verbally from the official, not have him just answer the questions
on a piece
written
of paper.
down on the sheet of paper. So the fourth official was kind of shocked at this. He was a little blown back. He was like, okay. So he goes back inside, and even Zach and I, Zach tells me, they're acting like if they don't know what's going on. These procedures are in the referee locker room, so they should know.
Yeah.
And now this is something that I don't know, because I haven't been in the referee locker room, so I just listen to them, and it makes sense that they would have the procedures in the referee locker room that they have to follow. I'll say maybe 5 minutes after the fourth official went back inside, he comes back out, the same fourth official, and he says, okay, so you want me to verbally read you the answers? Here you go. And he just proceeds to verbally read off the sheet of paper. I asked him the questions that were on there one by one, and he just reads off the sheet of paper, what was on the sheet of paper. And then after he finishes reading those three questions that I asked him, he just hands me the sheet of paper and he goes back inside. So that's what happened. That was the procedure that happened. So they completely didn't follow procedures in that time. So
let me ask you this question. Were you given any reason either then or even up to this point as to why the fourth official was the one that was sent out? And even then, why he just read the pre-written answers? Other than you guys, I guess, saying, hey, somebody's got to verbally answer these questions?
No, I can tell you that up to today, right now, I still don't know why they didn't follow procedure. To be honest, I don't think we'll ever know. We'll ever hear that. I didn't. There was chance for me to give a follow-up question, but I had to actually write down the question, and at that point, I was just trying to really get back to the locker room, because I had yet to go to the locker room and ask my questions about the game, so I didn't have time.
Yeah.
So no, to this point, we still don't know why the actual referee didn't come out and give the answers. And I mean, I would have been satisfied with him if he were to come out and verbally read the answers off the sheet of paper, but at least he's the guy that refereed the match, not the fourth official who was standing on the sideline.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just very interesting. So and I'm gonna get. I can already pretty much guess the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Up to this point, to your knowledge, has the referee been disciplined in any way as a result of either the resulting disciplinary committees, resulting in the rescinding of the red card, or his disregard for protocol with the interaction you guys had, or were supposed to have that didn't have?
No, not at all. Not to my knowledge. There's no way for, I guess, us reporters to find out. I guess I'll say unless they just, put that news out on Twitter or send out an email about it. But I really doubt that we'll ever find out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll find out if we see him ref another game, or if we don't see him
anytime soon.
Ref another game. Maybe that'd be our notion to know that, hey, he was, disciplined.
It's just interesting to me because when you combine that interaction, you combine all of that with the way that match went, with the red card call, with the entirety of that last 30 minutes of the match. When you take all that into account, and then the referee kind of does this thing, it kind of comes across, now maybe as a media person, maybe your perception is a little different, but it kind of comes off as he had some sour grapes about people being upset with him or something, because there's zero reason that he shouldn't be coming out to talk to the pool reporter, in this case you, to discuss, why he made these decisions. I mean, clearly he either had doubt over the decisions, or he was trying to just not have to deal with the, whatever the pending repercussions would be, from having to make an answer. It's just interesting because it just leaves a really interesting impression overall of what that particular official feels about that match. And then not only that, but to me, if I'm you, and I don't know if you got the same feeling, but that was a complete showing of a lack of respect for what you do, as a media guy. Would you agree with that? That felt kind of like a slap in the face in the moment?
I would say this: it amplified that red card by him not coming out and verbally answering my questions. Had he done that, maybe this doesn't become that much of a big deal. We're still talking about the red card to Tomas Martinez, but because he didn't come out and verbally answer the questions as stated by protocol, I think this blew up more than it should have.
Absolutely.
I know when I tweeted out exactly what happened, I got a lot of retweets, a lot of people commented on it because of that. They were just as upset that the referee didn't come out and verbally give these answers and verbally, talk about why he decided to take these actions to end the game. So if I feel it was a slap to my face, not really. I mean, I just take it as I'm just doing my job. If it happens again, I'll do the same thing. I'll submit questions if it's another controversial call. And my only hope is that this time the actual referee comes out and verbally answers the questions.
Absolutely. And I would suspect if another similar type of incident should take place and you're the poll reporter and you've got questions and you've submitted them, I suspect MLS or Pro will stress very strongly to their officials, you need to follow protocol, which means that even if you're concerned that maybe you didn't make the right call, you still have to go out there and at least defend yourself.
You're talking too much common sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Pro is pro. I'm not going to argue that, but I think pro is also smart enough. I know I just used those words in the same sentence, but I do think pro is smart enough to at least make sure their officials understand what they should be doing. Now, it's interesting to me as well because this official, this was his fifth match. Or was it his fifth or his sixth match to actually be the head official? It was his fifth match to be the head official of an MLS match, and then
I believe it was his fifth. His fifth.
So, taking that into consideration as well. I mean, he's obviously an inexperienced ref, at least at the MLS level. He clearly felt, and I know Weeby tried to say that, he took the emotion out of it by doing the VAR thing and watching it. You could tell with the way that he was officiating on the field, you could tell with the demonstrativeness with which he gave cards later in the match and the way he called fouls and things of that nature, that there was definitely emotion involved with what was taking place. And I think to some regards, as a Dynamo fan sitting in the stands watching all of this take place, who I feel, at least to some extent, I have some knowledge about what's going on, that it definitely rubbed me the wrong way because of that. Now, if the official had called the red card and it was wrong, I can live with it, because you know what? Like Weeby said, officials get it wrong all the time. It happens. It's the rules are up for interpretation because they're ambiguous the way they're written. But to sit there and make a wrong call and then proceed to officiate the match the way he did, and then to turn around and like you said, and I think a lot of Dynamo fans feel this way, and I think a lot of fans in general that watch that match on TV, to not come out and defend yourself and not follow the protocol and procedures that are set in place and agreed upon by your union with MLS and with Pro, that to me is just an utter disregard for really what his job is. You say, you were just doing your job and following what your job, essentially says you need to do. Well, his job is to come out, and even if he's not necessarily defending why he made the calls the way he did,
Just say why.
to at least come out and face the music. To me, he's sitting there back in there in the referee locker room, and he's hiding away because he doesn't want to have to deal with the scrutiny and doesn't want to have to deal with the public eye. And that's just a shame, because I hope that this doesn't happen on a regular basis with other pool reporters for other questionable calls in other matches. And I don't think I've heard of happening one other time, not with Dynamo but another team. But it is very interesting to me. Very interesting, considering all the scrutiny on Pro, all of the scrutiny on these officials, all the scrutiny on MLS, for this type of thing to happen following this type of match and this type of call. So let's move away from this, because this, while being big, is not the only thing going on right now. The Dynamo have brought in a player, Ronaldo Pena, to, at least in my opinion, be the primary backup for Mauro Manotas and provide some possibility of width out wide when Elise or Kyoto need a rest. And so I'm curious if you've heard anything up to this point or seen anything, Jesus, in regard to Pena and his availability, his where he's at in getting ready for matches. If you've heard anything from Wilmer as to where Wilmer expects to, how Wilmer expects to deploy him, et cetera, anything like that. Have you heard anything on Pena yet?
What I can tell you on Pena is that I've heard that he's training to get match fit. There's been some days when he's doing 2 days. So he's definitely working hard to get match fit and be able to compete for playing time. From my understanding, I don't think we should expect to see him to maybe mid-August, if not maybe a little sooner. But I would say that would be the timetable, maybe mid-August. I wouldn't be surprised if they hold him till late August. And this is something that the Dynamo do, especially Wilmer Cabrera. Think back to last season when Tomas Martinez joined. He didn't really start lagging. He didn't really start logging heavy minutes until the latter parts of the season. And then from there on, he was every game starter, even going into the playoffs. So I expect a similar approach. I know you say that you see him more as Manota's backup, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they brought him here for 2 things: more depth at the forward position, but also competition for the forwards, because there's nobody else but those 3 forwards. Sometimes they'll throw Memo up during the bench, from the bench, and Arturo, but they still need another solid scorer. I mean, because you can argue Memo's more of a midfielder, and Arturo's even more of a creative attacking midfielder. So they need another actual forward. And while, yes, Kyoto is more of a winger, you can qualify him as a forward. So I think he's really...
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Oh, you're...
I know you tweeted out, and I know... Go ahead.
I was going to ask, in what you were saying there, let's not forget the Dynamo do technically still have Andrew Winger on the roster, and he is technically also a forward/winger. And do you, at this point, do you get the impression from Wilmer and the team that they see Andrew Winger as more of a right back now, more of an outside back, or midfielder?
I would agree, yes, unless listen, he started out the season playing up top. You know, he was one, I think, on the left wing before Kyoto got match fit ready. But I think right now, I mean, I think you would agree, he's been a revelation at right back.
Absolutely.
You know, he's always been a good defender, and he knows when to go up. He knows when to pull back. So I wouldn't be surprised if they see him more as a right back and as a midfielder at this point. I mean, you know, against Portland, they went with the 5-3-2, and he can play that perfectly. That wing back position is perfect for him. You know, yeah, he doesn't have the speed, but he has the IQ to know when to go up, when to pull back. So I would say he's a Swiss Army knife. You know, you can always throw him up top, and you know what you get from him, no matter what position you put him in. So,
Absolutely.
So I'll say that.
So then I have a follow-up to that, which is, have you heard anything as to the status of AJ De La Garza? And along those same lines, I know he's been at practice. I know he's been doing some things. Do you have an update on what level of physical activity he has engaged in practice?
He's practicing. He's not practicing. I mean, he's getting back. He's been at practice. I actually saw him. I'm not sure if it was the Philadelphia. I think probably the Philadelphia game or the game before that. He was in the locker room. Just had a brief exchange, and you know, he told me he had a brief setback. So I don't know to what extent that setback is. But he looked pretty upset. Obviously, he wants to be out there in the field. And trust me, the Dynamo wish they could have him on there on the field. You know, it's one of the reasons why I think this season, the Dynamo's defense hasn't been as up to par to what last season, that was one of their strengths. So I don't know. I don't have a timetable for him. I haven't heard nothing else beyond that. Okay. And the setback came from AJ, so I didn't get that from Dynamo PR or from Wilmer Cabrera.
Makes sense.
Wilmer just says that AJ's always training hard and he's trying to get back, but trust me, nobody wants to be out there as bad as AJ.
Oh, I know. No, I do know that. So one more question for you. Actually, a couple more questions. Number one, have you heard anything about any additional possible moves by the Dynamo, trades or otherwise? You know, they made the move for Pena. Is that the only move that you've heard or believe that they will be making? Or have you maybe and you don't have to tell us what the move is. That's quite all right. But if you've heard anything that says maybe they are looking to add another piece or, you know, to upgrade at another position somewhere in the next couple of weeks, I'm just curious if you've heard anything related to that.
I actually haven't, and even if I ask that question, you know, Dynamo are pretty good at keeping things under wraps.
Yeah, they are.
You ask, you know, Wilmer, you ask Matt Jordan, they say, look, we're always trying to improve the team. So they give a very PRS question.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
and it's always the same answer, too.
Exactly, you know, so I don't think we'll know anything until maybe, you know, Lester tweets about it, or maybe, you know, I happen to find out, but it'll be the day when they're announcing something, or a couple of days before, but I haven't heard of anything. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they make any more moves. My hope is that they're hoping that the players they have injured can come back in time and help to make this push to the playoffs. But I haven't heard anything of if they're trying to add somebody else. If anything, maybe they'll add somebody from RGB, but that's just me speculating.
So as soon as you said that, Edson immediately perked up and looked at me like, oh, no. He's giving me that look, too, still. So one more question before you go, and that is, and you just talked about the injuries and players coming back. What is the status on Cabezas? I'm sure you've been given the PR answer. And then, I mean, do we have any sort of timetable? Although I know the Dynamo well enough to say that's probably we don't have any timetable. But I'm just curious if you've heard anything along that lines and why the poor guy can't seem to get fit again enough to play in at least a match. I would like him to at least make one match this season.
Listen, I think a lot of the trouble that Dynamo have had this season is because Cabezas isn't playing.
Yep.
And I think also I haven't heard nothing. I've heard the PR answer, like you said. But one thing I'll say is, you know, there was a tweet that was sent out by this club in Colombia, I believe, and they showed Juan David Cabezas doing some rehab sections there. And they were asking, why is he back there? Why isn't he with the Dynamo? Well, apparently, oddly enough, Roman Torres, the Panamanian who plays for Seattle Sounders, he tweeted and said that that's one of the best rehab centers that a player could go to. So that's all I have on Juan David Cabezas. I haven't heard nothing much beyond that. I haven't been out to practice to ask him about this specific question. So why send him down to Colombia? And if he's down there, is that going to expedite his rehab?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if Ramon Torres is saying it's one of the better rehab facilities in the world, I will definitely take him at his word on that one. That's not a guy I'm prepared to ask any questions of in any way, shape, or form. And his ability to stay fit for the most part has been pretty well documented as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. I like you, I am very anxious to see him get back on the pitch at some point this season, especially if we can do it early enough that we still can squeak into the playoffs and then have him fully healthy for the entire playoffs. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head that this season has gone the way that it has with the absence of Cabezas. And really, at the end of the day, when you lose your absolute wrecker of a defensive mid and your true anchor right in front of that defensive, that back four, it is just very hard to overcome that loss. And we've seen it with the Dynamo this season, how much they give up possession in the midfield, how much Saren has occasionally pushed himself too high up the pitch, how Alexander isn't quite as crisp as he is when he's next to Cabezas. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the midfield and a lot of the defense was made to play better because they were playing with Cabezas. I think having Cabezas in the midfield made everybody look better.
Absolutely.
We're being honest, and that it's just he raises their level as well. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why they also brought in Luis Gil. They were trying to find somebody that could fill that Cabezas role. Because I think, Darwin, he's a great player and he does good stuff, but he does have a tendency to sometimes make little mistakes that can turn to goals. I think there's 2-3 goals this season, if I can recall, where he's turned the ball over or lost the ball that have led directly to goals from the opponent. And those are goals that the Dynamo weren't giving up a season ago. And now I will add this. Somebody who's done a good job who has been put in that position is Boniek Garcia. The only thing is that Boniek doesn't have the legs that he used to have, but he's been a true revelation at that position. I think he has 5 assists this season. But yeah, I think Cabezas, his absence cannot be understated.
Absolutely. So, Jesus, we're going to go to break here in just a minute. Before we go to break, you want to let everybody know where they can follow you on Twitter, where they can read your articles from Pro Soccer USA, and then anywhere else that they can find you on social media or otherwise.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Jesus_Acevedo Jr. That's on Twitter. And then MLS Soccer, anything Dynamo related is probably 90% done by me. Same for Pro Soccer USA. You can just go to Pro Soccer USA and search for news and go to Houston Dynamo, and everything that's Houston Dynamo related will be done by me. I actually wrote a feature last week about Houston Dynamo and about Peña coming into the attacking core for Houston. There's a lot of quotes from him, quotes from Anotas about, seeing more competition, and Will Cabrera and Matt Jordan, what kind of player they see Peña being for the Dynamo. So, yeah.
Yeah, those were very good. All the stuff that you've been putting out is fantastic. You're doing yeoman's work over there, man. Keep it up. It's good to see that level of quality coverage from the media in general for the Dynamo. They desperately needed it. So keep up the good work. It does not go unnoticed, and you definitely have some champions out here rooting for you and hoping that it continues to, that level of coverage continues to grow, and that you just continue to find ways to help that grow, because you're such an integral part to that now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just doing what I do.
That's good enough for me. Keep it up. With that said, hey, man, have a good one. We're going to let you go, and we're going to go to break. When we come back from break, we are going to give away some U.S. Soccer Open Cup tickets. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes.
They'll know how we do it. They'll never We took a train to the ceiling, and now I know my feelings. Nobody said it'd be easy. I found you in all of the madness. I heard your voice in the static. Your skin on my skin like a magnet. Nobody said it'd be easy.
And we're back for hour 2 of Generation Orange, a Houston soccer internet show and podcast. And I just want to say, first of all, incredible thank you to Andrew Wiebe and Jesus Acevedo for coming on. But also, how was that an hour? Like, we were just talking, that felt like 15 minutes to us. I mean, that went by incredibly fast. So yeah, anyways, really, they were incredible. I'm really thankful we were able to get them on. Both of them have a lot of important intelligence to add to this conversation. With that said, we have 5 minutes until we're going to give away those U.S. Open Cup tickets. You have to be in the YouTube chat, which means if you're on your phone, you need to figure out how to open the chat. Usually on a phone, you can just the chat thing is down at the bottom. You just have to kind of swipe it up a little bit, and it'll open the chat window. Just type "I'm here" or something to that effect, so I know that you're there. With that said, we were going to talk U.S. Open Cup. What? Turn up the volume?
No, mute it.
Oh, mute it. Oh, okay. What are you going to do, man? You got to use your words, bro. Like,
I don't want to interrupt.
You're fine. You can interrupt. U.S. Open Cup. So the Dynamo drew Los Angeles FC, which we already knew was going to be the case. We knew we were playing them. And the U.S. Open Cup draw ended up with us hosting LAFC, which we knew last week. And then if we win and Philly wins, we host the final. Now, this is huge because that puts us in position. If we win against LAFC, that gives us a 50-50 chance. Well, we'll actually know at that point because the match for Philly versus Chicago in Philly is on Tuesday. So we'll know going into our match Wednesday whether we have the possibility to host or not at that point, which would be incredible if we get to the point where we, if we go into that match knowing we have the chance to host, knowing that if we win, we host, then, I mean, there's no doubt Wilmer's got to put the absolute best lineup out that he can put out. Because the chance to win Open Cup when you're literally one match from the final and you have and at that point if you win, you're going to host, that's just huge. Absolutely huge. And let's be real, the Dynamo season needs to be first and foremost, let's go Open Cup at this point because it's our best chance to possibly do something with this season, with the struggles we've had come this midpoint of the season. So do really good to win that match. For those that don't know, thank you. So for those that don't know, essentially, Open Cup is a long-standing, tournament that's been around for, 60, 70 years, it seems like. Some people say it's been here for 100. I don't think it's been here quite that long, but it's been here for a long, long, long time. It's incredible. So Michael asked, what are the benefits of winning U.S. Open Cup? And he says it only generates revenue for BBVA. So first of all, he's correct. The clubs that are in the competition that host, they do not get ticket sales. All the ticket sales for U.S. Open Cup go to the U.S. Open Cup and go to USSF. However, if the Dynamo win U.S. Open Cup, they receive $300,000 in allocation money. they receive a CONCACAF Champions League berth, which means they'll be in CONCACAF Champions League next year, which it would be amazing if we can keep Elise in Kyoto, but we'll get to that later. And on top of that, it's actually a pretty prestigious thing to win. It really is. And again, we're 2 matches away from winning it versus how many matches away from making the playoffs. Like, if we have to balance that a little bit, like, yeah, I want to make the playoffs, don't get me wrong. But right now, our focus needs to be for this next however long U.S. Open Cup. Like, we've got to put everything into this. And that $300,000 of allocation money cannot be understated how important that is, because that's, for the Dynamo, the way that they acquire players, that's 3 players for the Dynamo. That might even be 5 players for the Dynamo at $60,000 each. I mean, that's, that's not unheard of. I mean, Tyler Derrick is $67,500 salary. So that's 4 or 5 players. That's quite a bit of boost to our roster, which we could really use for depth and other purposes, of course. Yes. Or at least that's a potential DM in the winter window, which we could certainly use. So with that said, it is now time. I really wish I had told you to queue up a drum roll thing for this. I really regret not doing it. So let's see how many people I have in here. Oh, look at all these people. There's so many people in this chat now. Oh, that's amazing.
You want a randomizer?
Yeah, pick a number 1 to 5. That's all I need.
4.
4. That is... Oh, crap, I closed it. Oh, I need 6. So now you need to do 1 to 6 since we... Okay, I'll give him a chance.
Okay. Two.
And it is D-Bay7 has 1 to 2 tickets. Congratulations, D-Bay7. We will actually reach out to us on Twitter at Gen Orange Radio, and we will work with you to get the tickets squared away for you for the match. No, Callow, they don't get ticket sales. Trust me, I'm aware. No, Blues fan, it wasn't rigged. You said you already had tickets, so I excluded you. Sorry. You shouldn't have said you already had tickets. Oh, Callow throws in that he really does say that okay, he's actually pulling out the rule book. Each home team will be responsible for paying a hosting fee to U.S. Soccer based in part on gross ticket sales, including sales from any suite, club, and other premium seats. He says he read the handbook. I mean, that's the first time Callow's read anything, right? Just kidding, Callow. Much
like
love.
Jerson Echeverry once told me, no comment.
But yeah, going back to Open Cup, I mean, this really is such a huge, important match for us, and excluding the fact of, whether we have to pay money to USSF, which I do know we have to pay money to USSF. How much of that money we keep from the ticket sales from this match, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's minimal at best. Cisco, that's funny. It's just huge. It's such a big opportunity for us as a club to win something, first of all, that we've not made it. I mean, well, first of all, we've never made it past the semifinals. We made it to the semifinals in 2009 and have not been back since. And even then, I want to say in the semifinals, we put on a really bad showing. And those were back in the Dom years. So, Dom didn't care about U.S. Open Cup. But this is our opportunity to finally make a final. And then also with the team as it's been built, I really feel like we're built very well once players get healthy. To compete in CONCACAF Champions League. I think this team is built to beat CONCACAF teams very well. Where does that look from? Maybe not Tigres, but other CONCACAF League teams.
He knows me too well already.
I watched how they took it to Toronto, so that's all I got to say about that. That's the match, by the way, is going to be August 8th. But unfortunately, most of the ticket reps, or at least the ones that I know, are all up in Dallas at the Roma match. It's 8:30. Holy cow! Okay, that's going to be a late night. It's a good thing that's a Wednesday night. I guess Down in the Valley is going to air on Thursday that week. All right, cool. Anyways, U.S. Open Cup. I got sidetracked. Thanks. August 8th at 8:30.
You're talking about the ticket reps.
Yeah, ticket reps. They're all up in Dallas. Yes, they're at Dallas, which, by the way, is just terrible in and of itself. The fact that they felt that was okay as ticket reps to the Houston Dynamo to travel to Dallas and it's not a Frisco match. Come on. They all went to go watch Roma versus whoever they're playing tonight, tomorrow, yesterday. I don't remember when they were playing. But I couldn't get a hold of any ticket reps. I take that back. I did get a hold of Jay Adelberg, who I'm hoping to get on next week if Julio, my ticket rep, can't come on next week. I'm hoping to get one of them on. And I'm going to throw this out there for you. Those of you that didn't win the tickets, we will be giving away another pair of tickets next week to the U.S. Open Cup semifinal match.
I don't feel bad.
So you still have another chance to win. It's not like your chance to win is just out the window. It just means you have to tune in again next week, same time, same channel. And we will be giving away those extra pair of tickets.
I mean, it's good enough reward to having to deal with my ugly mug. But I mean, then again.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just tune in right at 8 o'clock. We'll do the same thing. We'll do it at like 8:10, so you don't even have to sit here and watch Edson. I mean, that in and of itself is worthwhile, isn't it? So that's enough U.S. Open Cup discussion because we have something else to discuss, and we've really only got about 30 minutes or 15 minutes, according to my timeline here, to discuss this, and that is the match that took place on Saturday. And it was a thing. It was a thing that happened. Players definitely look tired. I don't think there's any doubt that the exhaustion level has reached a peak, and this week break could not come soon enough. At least looked tired. Kyoto looked tired. Tomas looked tired. Boney looked tired. Alexander looked tired. Saren looked tired. Oh, Saren didn't play.
No.
Boney looked tired. Bees didn't look that tired because he had one of those matches off recently. But Machado looked tired.
So here's the lineup. You had Joe Willis on goal.
Yep.
You had Adolfo Machado, Jared Watts,
Right back. Yep.
Leonardo.
Center back. Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, we played with 5-man backline.
DeMarcus Beasley, Andrew Wenger, Eric Alexander, Boney, Tomas Martinez, Kyoto, and Elise.
Yeah, Wenger started at left back. No. Where did Wenger play?
Well, Google has him as a winger, but
right, Machado was center back. That's right. We had three center backs. Machado, Watts, and Leonardo were all three center backs, and then we had Wenger and Beasley.
Yeah.
On the
So
outside.
apparently, according to the broadcast on the radio, they looked like the Dynamo was playing a false nine formation with Tomas Martinez playing the false nine.
I could see that. I mean, it's not totally unheard of. My problem is that we looked extremely disjointed. Like, this was not a comfortable formation for these players.
Yeah.
Defensively, there were just times where, frankly, a player, Leonardo, loses his mark. The first Portland goal.
What else is new?
First Portland goal. And I mean, you could literally see the replay they show. You can see the moment that he switched off mentally and was just like, "Oh crap, my opponent has passed me now." And then we did tie it up. We went into halftime tied, which was really nice. And then we proceeded to give up a goal to Portland later in the match. Defensively, it's clear, and I think Jesus said it best. This team without Cabezas is a completely different team. Defensively, they're completely different. He's such an anchor to this team. He's such an anchor to this defense that I think to some extent Cabezas helped cover up a lot of our defensive mistakes and our defensive problems. And with him out, those things have been exposed for what they are, which is, mental mistakes, which are
the lack of speed,
lack of physicality in some cases, mentally switching off at bad moments, just things that just shouldn't be happening for an MLS level defender and defense, back four, back five. Things like that happening.
So Cabezas, you can consider it a player that's kind of like a wave breaker.
Yeah,
and that is something to contain the force of the attack. That way the defenders don't have to do as much work.
Exactly.
Without Cabezas and having Darwin Saren, who, like Jesus mentioned, and we've mentioned it before, tends to give the ball away a little bit too easily. Eric Alexander not being as confident because
and not as pacey. And he's
because Cabezas isn't alongside him. Then the attackers of the other team start pressuring our defenders
Yeah.
more and causing them to make these mental mistakes.
We are very susceptible, and I don't think it's the same way when Cabezas is in there. We are very susceptible to the counterattack without Cabezas. Cabezas helps kill that counterattack before it really gets going for the opposition, and it just shows so much when he's out how much he changes the overall flow of the counterattack for the other team.
So, a couple of things. So, actually, 3 things. So, Michael Duncan says, he's like, I think Cabrera looks at his bench and says, ugh, I got nothing.
He's
And
not
then
wrong.
Jordi, I'm totally
Iraheta.
He says it was Eric Alexander that lost his marker in the first goal.
If you watch, Leonardo has the player on his back shoulder and has an opportunity to make a play against him, and he doesn't make the play. That's why I say it was as much Leonardo as it was Eric. I mean, it really was Leonardo first and foremost. But yeah, Eric Alexander has been a liability as well. And Eric Alexander, frankly, Jesus kind of said it. Cabezas has elevated the play of those around him in the midfield and in the back line. And I'm intrigued to see how the Dynamo approach this offseason if Cabezas does not make it back in time for playoffs, because I know Cabezas isn't going anywhere. But you have to think that they want to upgrade at those positions if possible, so that even if Cabezas isn't there next season, they have the opportunity to not feel like the entire season is lost. Because it kind of feels that way at this point, that without Cabezas, this season is just a wash. And that it's painful. It's painful to say the least.
And then Callo says, why don't we try Adam Lundqvist as CDM, or as a midfield?
And he notes that Lundqvist has a history at center mid, which is true. He does. And I wouldn't mind seeing it. I really wouldn't at this point, because frankly, we have to try something else. What we've been doing isn't working. And so I wouldn't mind seeing it. And so at some point we have to try something different. We just really have to. Michael asks or says, we just really have no backup from Manotas, Kyoto, or Elise, and no depth in the attack. I would say that's true to some extent. I do think there's depth because we do have Wenger on the bench. We do have Memo on the bench for Kyoto and Elise. But up until Peña was brought in, we had absolutely no backup from Manotas. And really, if you want to take that a step farther, I mean, we theoretically don't have a backup for Tomas unless you consider Luis Gil to be enough, to be enough of a backup to cover for when he's not on the pitch. Tying that into the red card discussion earlier, I mean, if Tomas isn't on the pitch and you have to start Luis Gil, I feel even worse about that Portland match. Although at that point I was saying we should just go up with 10 guys and only play 10 guys an entire match and just not play the additional 11th man. Just don't go with an attacking mid. Just play 10 men for the whole match and as a protest. But I digress. Sorry,
I'm looking at and that play you're talking about where you say that Leonardo lost.
Was that the second goal?
That's what I was going to ask. Was it the first or the second goal?
I thought it was the first goal, but maybe I'm thinking.
So
of
the
second
first goal, it was Machado.
Okay.
So Machado had
Who,
yes.
let's be fair, who has been playing right back for over a month now. And when you play a specific position for over a month, your communication is a little bit different. Your positioning is a little bit different, and I think that didn't help.
Yeah, I think the problem actually was because if you see where he's running, he's used to being a center back, so he made the run as if he was the other center back as well. But Andrew Wenger, who was out there, just didn't come and mark who he should have in that play, and that is why it was an easy goal for Portland.
Yeah. So, but again, it ties into the same thing, which is to say when Cabezas is not on the pitch, which has been every match this season, minus 2 matches where technically he was on the match for 15 minutes. And I think he's might have made it a total of 24 minutes this season between the 2 matches. But when the guy is not out there, the difference in the goals that we give up, the difference in the mental mistakes that we somehow seem to have, I don't understand. And maybe this is Cabezas in general. He's just kind of that type of leader on the pitch. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how those mental mistakes happen when he's not on the pitch, but then don't happen when he's on the pitch. He's not covering that much that these mistakes should not or shouldn't happen when he's on the pitch.
The thing about it is, it's all about confidence,
And that-
and having a role model there, having somebody that, okay, if I mess up, he's gonna have my back.
Yeah.
When he's not there, there's nobody, and it puts more pressure on you.
Well, and I think not only that, but it allows the defenders to be a bit more aggressive. I feel like right now the defenders have to be super conservative because there's nobody covering behind them. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if when he comes back, if this does in fact kind of right itself. So Michael asked, do we feel like the Dynamo will make any more signings before the window closes? They're not making any more signings. I've got that on solid authority. Now, that's not to say they can't make a trade before the window closes, but they're definitely not making any more signings. They're just not. I would love for them to do so because there's clearly some holes they need to fill. But I feel like this team, this club, this front office feels like the players that they have when injuries are not an issue is a good enough team to compete for MLS Cup. And I don't think they're wrong. Last year proved that without a shadow of a doubt. And they've improved in a couple of areas.
And right now in the midfield, I mean, you have others behind. You have Eric Bird as well.
Absolutely. I would love to see Eric Bird get a start because
he's done well in the minutes that he's played, whether it's Open Cup and in MLS.
And not just that, but he's better when he's left on an island than Eric Alexander is. He's better when he's left on an island than Saren is. I want to see him get a start. Over one of them. I don't care which, because at this point, neither of them are performing the way that we need them to. And not starting Eric Bird, to me at this point, you're not losing anything by starting Eric Bird. Mm-hmm. You gain potentially more than you would lose.
And you know what's just interesting though, because last year, in 2016 and the beginning of 2017, before Charlie Ward was signed by the Dynamo, anyways, he was played more as a 10.
Yeah,
Eric Bird.
Yeah, as a record
D-mid.
Yeah.
When Charlie Ward came over here, Eric Bird was moved to a center defensive midfield. Mm-hmm. Last year, I was very critical about that, but I think now that he's been with the Dynamo, that he's trained with the Dynamo, and he's kind of had some sort of mentorship with the other, like with Boney or Cabezas in the during preseason and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think he's learned a lot more how to play a defensive midfield, and I think it's shown to the fact that he has amazed me in MLS play, being able to grab a hold of that role and not look uncomfortable in it.
I mean, there's Eric Bird, who, as you mentioned, he has shown the capability to definitely play well when given the opportunity, and so I'd like to see him. I'd like to see Connor Donovan get a shot too. Again, your center backs right now, of your center back pairing of Watts and Leonardo isn't working. Senderos is hurt, so why not give Donovan a start next to Watts? I mean, Leonardo is so bad right now that you're not losing anything.
And honestly, I wouldn't be mad even as an RGVFC fan because we have Ontiveros, we have Kyle Adams, we have Robert Castellanos. Yeah. So I think we have enough depth in order to cover for that.
You guys have basically been playing without him for the most part, anyways, for the last couple of months, regardless.
Well, he's actually been playing as a starter, but even then. In the couple of matches where he didn't play because he was over here, we looked fine with Kyle Adams and Robert Castellanos. No, not Robert Castellanos. Omar Ontiveros in having been the center back pairing.
So it was just noted in chat that the match that's going on in Dallas is the Barca-Roma match.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's a little different. Okay, I can give the Dynamo ticker reps a little pass on that because at least it's Barca. No, I'm just kidding. For a Real Madrid fan, that probably hurts, huh? Cisco makes a good point. He said it's funny, not really, that the past few seasons it's been, if it weren't for injuries, every other team in MLS deals with injuries. So what are these teams doing better than we are to combat that? I think it's a good question because, like I said, other teams, they do run into this. I think the difference is the other teams, when they typically have these injuries, it's not to their key starter. It's not to their key personnel. And they have the depth to back it up.
I was just about to mention that. I think not only the depth, but the quality in the depth.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, our depth has been injured too. Andrew Wanger got injured. Our depth has been injured. Kevin Garcia. Senderos got injured. AJD got injured. He wasn't depth, but he got injured. Mm-hmm. Beasley was injured for a match like picked up a knock.
Kyoto wasn't available in the first couple of games.
Lundqvist picked up a knock. We've been just.
It's been a never-ending barrage of injuries, and I think that it has affected us the most out of every MLS team. And honestly, like I mentioned in another previous episode, I mean, you can't really plan for having this many injuries in the middle of the season.
And you could plan for the injuries to your starters. You can't plan for the injuries to your starters' backups. That's hard to plan for. That's hard to cover against.
Yeah, especially.
And the other thing is, let's take it a step farther. The teams that typically do well when many of their players get injured or a good number of their players get injured are typically ones that have players that are coming through their academy pipeline that they can start these young players. We have that depth. We're playing them, but we're not starting them. Memo's not getting many starts. He should be getting more starts. But the problem is our depth, that we have the most young depth, is in our attack, which is the one place where we really don't need the depth from injuries right now.
Yes.
Our problem is our depth from our youngsters is not along the back line and not at defensive mid. Granted, we have Eric Bird, but at the same time, Eric Bird, and it's up to Wilmer, but I would have rather seen Eric Bird start the last 3 matches. I really would have.
But don't you think this is more on the lines of the mentality of MLS, and you've mentioned it many times, the fact that teams in MLS are going to focus most of their efforts, whether it's in the first team or with the academies, in building attack.
Because the league is an attack league. It's an attack-minded and an attack-oriented
And so I think
league.
that's another reason why you mentioned, well, we don't have a lot of young guys that are more capable to start when they need to be depth in MLS, because most of the things is, one, not in the attack, and number two, those youngsters, those attacking youngsters aren't really given that much minutes, especially the Dynamo. Why? Because we rely too much on Kyoto and Elise.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Dive actually just brought up, which is that about our training staff and how the number of injuries can sometimes indicate a problem or with practice or recovery with the training staff. So we'll talk about that when we get back. We're going to go to break for just a couple of minutes. When we come back, we'll talk about injuries, and then we're also going to talk about, what do I have on here to talk about? It's RGV Express time after this, too. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
I felt like running through the pouring rain. I felt like letting go of my mind. I felt it coming with no ground to brace. I think I just might be bad for you. Drowning by the fact that I don't need a reason to be bad for you. I'm losing my head when I'm mad for you.
you, for you, for you.
And we're back. You're listening to Generation Orange, a Houston soccer internet show and podcast. Woohoo! I love that. That phrase is just perfect. So before we went to break, we were talking about injuries, and I want to. Calvin is talking about some good things. Cisco's talking about some good stuff, and then D-Bay's talking about some good stuff. So we're going to hit these real quick. Number one, D-Bay says we need better training staff too. Number of injuries indicates there's some kind of problem going on related to practice or recovery or something similar. That's a good point, and it's really important to note that in the offseason, Theron Enns, who used to be was, as of last season, our head trainer, is gone. He moved to RSL. So there may be something to that related to training staff. Now, we have great trainers, don't get me wrong, but there's a difference in how different trainers handled certain injuries, strains and pulls and tears versus other trainers. And it's possible that our current head trainer may handle these differently than Theron did, and that may be why we're seeing a few more of these strains and pulls. Along the same lines, Cisco, we'll get to your question here in a second, but Calvin says, starting in 2017, we had the oldest team in MLS. Our average age for this season is 27.3, which is dead last in MLS in age. He said you combine that with the cheapest roster in the league and no depth, and it's easy to see how injuries hurt us more than other teams. He said it's like he says he imagines chartering flights and upgrades to training staff might have marginal effects. He's right about that.
D-Bay says our average is spiked pretty high by a few outliers too. Just something to consider.
Yeah.
Beasley, Senderos, Boniek are all close to mid-30s, which is why we're seeing that the organization, the front office, is trying to find a lot younger replacements.
Fuenmayor,
Yes,
Lundqvist,
Rolando Pena.
Wenger as well, being tried back there, because even though he's 27 at this point, 26, he's still young enough that he's reached that point of peak in terms of MLS age. So he still has plenty of legs, plenty of years on his legs.
And I mean, you can't really. I mean, even though Senderos has been getting injured commonly, when he has played, you see why he was
coveted.
signed.
Yeah, he was absolutely coveted when he was signed, and there were a lot of people out there, Hal Kaiser being one of them actually, that mentioned that because he was an Arsenal fan and that's where Senderos came from. That Senderos is a walking injury, and he's not wrong, but the difference is Senderos can still provide that veteran presence on or off the pitch. And this team did need that with some other players.
Especially with Vicente gone.
Yeah, especially with our, Papa Sanchez gone. Cisco makes the point that it wasn't too long ago in 2014 that we lost 4 or 5 players due to ACL injuries. Mark Sherrod, Tally Hall, Tony Casio. There were a couple NWSL players that we lost. It was Stephanie Oakes and Brittany Bach were the other 2 NWSL players that we lost for those. And Callum makes a good point. Older players are the ones that typically get injured for longer periods of time. And he notes that even AJD is 30 years old. It's at the end of the day, you can't rely on strictly an old back line. And I think that's why the Dynamo made such a concerted effort to sign Fuenmayor when they did, because they knew we needed Fuenmayor as a young player to come in and be a long-term player that doesn't necessarily get injured. And he's only been injured 1 match, I think, this season.
You cannot deny, and I posted it during the match, you cannot deny that Fuenmayor has exponentially gotten better ever since he came
you had
here.
to think he would once he adjusted to MLS speed, to MLS play, to the MLS physicality style. He came in and he was fairly large, but he bulked up even more. He's become bulkier. He's definitely hit the weight room to strengthen himself, to get stronger. And it shows on the pitch. And the thing is going into this offseason, it's important to remember that just because they're not going to sign a player right now in this window doesn't mean they're not going to sign one in the offseason, to partner with Fuenmayor. That $300,000, while it's not a DP contract, that's a veteran starter at center back. That's a decent starter at center back.
Now you can't count your chickens before they hatch though.
No, I know. Yeah, we haven't won U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
But we still have 100. I believe we still at this point, if you make the semis, you get 100,000 allocation money for next season. So while that's not a full, for us it's a full player, but and then also we have to look at the draft as a way to bring a player in. And again, Connor Donovan's a player that's sitting there
And that
that's
was
signed to
what
an
I
MLS
was
contract.
saying. Connor Donovan has gotten a couple of matches of experience with the first team.
Yeah.
He's developed himself with the Toros, and yes, you can look at the draft and see what you can bring, and send it to the Toros and continue that pipeline, continue his development there, and see if he is ready. Bring him for Open Cup or bring him. And see if they're ready. And okay, well, here's the first team contract.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember, too, that this team is built upon the idea that we're going to be cycling a lot of players year over year, or a decent amount of players year over year, because we're not going to be looking for the player that's necessarily going to stick around here 5 to 10 years, partially because those players tend to cost a lot of money if you expect them to be your permanent starter, i.e. Elise, i.e. Kyoto, who's not making a lot of money. He's making good money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that, the off season can be very good and it can also be very bad. We have to, it offers an opportunity to improve the roster. We need to give the Dynamo the chance to do that. I definitely understand concern from fans about where we are in this current point in the season, but we also have to remember we're only 4 points out of 6th place. And not only are we only 4 points out of 6th place, we have a match in hand. 6th place is enough to get playoffs. So we're one match, if we win that match in hand, that puts us 1 point out of playoffs. Okay, with as bad as we've been, that puts us 1 point out of playoffs. If we can get AJ back, if we can get Cabezas back in, say, 2 to 3 weeks or maybe longer, whatever, if we can get him back and we start winning a few matches in a row, that playoff line is really within reach. So I'm not as concerned about where we are right now that we can get there. We're close enough. We just need to stay close enough to that line during the toughest part of our season. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that are going to tell you that the end of our season is going to be tough. They're not wrong. We have a hellacious end of our season. Our last 5 matches include LAFC, Seattle, Portland, and LA Galaxy. That's a really tough, and SKC, a really tough end of your season. But at the same time, we've proven we can beat LAFC. We've proven we can beat the Galaxy. We've proven we can beat Seattle. Not this year. We've proven we can beat Seattle. We've proven we can beat Portland. These are beatable teams. We have to remember that. So with that said, though, we're going to throw it over to everyone's favorite segment of our Generation Orange podcast, radio, internet show. God, I can't remember. Generation Orange internet show, and that is the RGV Express. Choo-choo!
Okay, just to clarify, Calvin, yes. Generation Orange was the old podcast with Leo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says he
Rip
missed
Leo. Rip.
Yeah. So, okay. So just quickly, for Down in the Valley purposes, we did win this past weekend. We defeated... can't believe I totally forgot.
So how many undefeated is that in a row?
We have 6 matches undefeated in a row. Yes.
Really? Who said that things might turn around when certain players showed up?
I don't
remember
know
who it was.
I don't know, but I think he's wearing a Dynamo cap right now or something like that.
Really?
But
There's
yes.
somebody else wearing a Dynamo cap? Whoa.
No, that's insane. But yeah, the Toros won this weekend against the Colorado Springs Switchbacks by a goal by Pablo Aguilar. And then also Carlos Small made his debut with the Toros,
Which was amazing, by the way.
Yes, made a really positive impact in the match. So Wilmer Cabrera Jr. was actually the starter. It came out in the 67th minute for Carlos Small. A couple of minutes before, Aldo Quintanilla was subbed in as well. And then you just saw right away that connection between Carlos Small and Aldo Quintanilla and Pablo Aguilar. In fact, in the goal starts on the left side of the pitch. He crosses the ball all the way to Nicolas Perea, who's on the right side, who heads it over to Carlos Small and is able to shield the ball. Carlos Small is able to shield the ball from 2 defenders, and you're talking about Josh Suggs and another defender who are big guys.
Yeah.
And so he was able to shield the ball away.
You seem extremely excited, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
And tries to dribble. Josh Suggs manages to get his foot on the ball. The ball lands to Pablo Aguilar. Aguilar makes a run towards the middle of the field, towards the inside. Aldo Quintanilla actually does something really smart. Actually, he usually does.
You showed me this play.
Yeah. So Aldo Quintanilla performs a beautiful screen on Taylor Hunter that avoids Taylor Hunter trying to close down the space for Pablo Aguilar, and Pablo Aguilar takes advantage of it and just shoots the ball, and Puari was just left standing there.
It should be noted that Taylor Hunter was at one time a Dynamo defender
And Toro defender.
And Toro's defender, yeah. It is good to see Carlos Small be that good that quick. I appreciate him being that good that quick.
And that's because he's coming from preseason.
Yeah,
And
so he's in form. But I think it's also important because we talked about this a few weeks ago that this team, the RGV right now, previously their biggest struggle was they didn't have confidence in the attack. They had that match with Santos, and they come out and they take it to Santos from minute 1 to minute 90 without a doubt.
Yes.
Ever since that match, they have been on another level. They've had some struggles. They haven't been completely 100% in sync, but they've looked the best they've looked this entire season, consistently. So, again, I say, regardless of what happens with RGV at the end of this season, if they make the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs, if they make a deep playoff run, if they don't make a deep playoff run, whatever happens, that team is on the up. That team is moving forward. As you've said, they're beginning to look very good. That bodes only good things for next season.
And from what I've heard from people who've told me who've been there in practices, that connection, that ACC with Aldo, Chuy, and Carlos Small, it's one heck of a connection.
And it's going to be there for a while,
And
too.
you saw it in the 92nd minute. Chuy Enriquez, next to the corner flag, chips the ball over 3 defenders towards Aldo Quintanilla. Aldo, in first touch, heads the ball back to Chuy in a 1-2 pass. And him, at the first touch, crosses the ball over to Carlos Small, who was completely unmarked.
Yep.
And just because Taylor Hunter was able to get it out on the line, it would have been his first goal of the season for Carlos Small on his debut. He made a really good first impression, not only for me, but also to the coaching staff and also to all the Panamanians who are watching him. So I want to give you every Panamanian that has read my article, has shared my article on Twitter.
Yeah.
I want a big thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you for giving me the
Support.
The support and the trust of being able to cover Carlos Small for you.
Yeah, and Calvin asked, are we going to talk about Bert leaving? That actually was discussed on last week's Down in the Valley episode. You can see that on actually the channel you're on right now. Just right click and go back to the channel, and you'll be able to see it. Let me just say the first hour of that with Greg Luca was entertaining as everything could be. Greg Luca is always amazing when he comes on, and I'm glad you guys let me come on to talk to him as well.
Yes.
So make sure you guys go listen to it. It's fantastic. And also just listen, give a listen to Edson and Jacob as well as they talk RGV.
Which will be tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's because the
usually,
two Thursday episodes were because of things that were going on Wednesdays. This week there's no Wednesday thing, so it's a Thursday again.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
Okay, yeah. And so basically, we usually should air every Wednesday at 7 p.m. But if there's Open Cup or a Dynamo thing that I have to go and cover, then
or an RGV thing for that matter.
Yes, exactly.
You're not going to be airing during an RGV match.
Yeah, exactly. But tomorrow we will be talking about a little bit more in depth about this match against Colorado Springs. Carson Merck will be on to talk about the RGV versus Las Vegas Lights, since he covers both teams as well. And we will continue to talk more about Carlos Small tomorrow as well. And be sure to also subscribe to Down in the Valley Gaming.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I want to this week to record and upload from Grand Theft Auto 5. So.
Oh, is that what you were doing yesterday?
Yeah, doing mods.
Also, a quick throw out as well on. And I had something, and it just hold on. I got to scroll back up. Calvin makes the point that RGV have 3 less wins than Las Vegas, but they're only 3 points back. Is Las Vegas above them in the table?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay.
So, right now, RGV is in 14th place around there, and Las Vegas lies. And the problem is that yes, Las Vegas has more wins, but they also have a hell of a lot more losses. And RGV really, it's been a lot. I mean, they've only had 3 wins, but it's a lot of draws as well. so that kind of keeps them afloat there. Yeah, they are currently in 14th with 20 points, and 20 points and 23 points. Las Vegas Lights right now. RGV is about 11 points away from 8th place, which is San Antonio, and with 31 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, again, the season's not lost. You know, there's still hope there, especially with the way the team's playing. And if they can continue to play like that. And, again, we said before, the struggle with RGV wasn't defensively, even though they were giving up the goals. It was that the attack couldn't maintain and wasn't scoring when they needed to. Now that they're scoring, you're seeing that defense is solid as heck right now. They look really good.
We are one shutout from first place in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
The problem, like you said, and I told you on Sunday, is that our in the Western Conference, our offense is dead last in goals scored.
So with that said, I have one more thing for you. Aren't you glad you listened to me early in the season when I told you all hope is not lost? It will be okay. Just give it time.
Yes. So, RGV fans, whoever's listening right now or in the podcast, listen to Sean. He knows what he's talking about, and I learned it the hard way. So, yeah, no independence, guys.
Yeah, please no. So next thing, one more thing before we kind of hit our closing thoughts. Actually, no, I'm going to save that for tomorrow. I'm going to come on tomorrow for a few minutes and talk about the Audi trade to FC Cincy and how all that
Oh, you mean
works.
Football Club Cincinnati?
Yeah, football Cincinnati. Yeah, that one. Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. This has been an incredible show. We have 10 minutes left. Holy moly!
I'm just gonna go ahead and quit and kind of explain it really quick. So basically,
that's fine, yeah.
okay. So basically, this trade is that they're saying that Adi.
1 second. So Harry asked this question on Twitter. So just a reminder, guys. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Gen Orange Radio, and then tweet us if you guys have questions or something that comes up during the week that you want us to talk about. We will do our best to get it on the show. Go ahead. And I hope Harry's listening, because if he's not, I'm going to have to throw him a DM and be like, dude, what's up with that?
Okay, so basically, the question is that Portland sold Adi to FC Cincinnati.
Correct.
Technically.
For allocation money.
Exactly, for 800,000 of allocation money.
Yes.
Now, the thing is, you got to take this into consideration. The club who technically they made that deal with is not Football Club Cincinnati in the USL. It's Football Club Cincinnati of the future MLS franchise.
Correct.
They're the ones that have this allocation money for
Correct.
next year.
Correct.
Okay. Now, why is there saying, oh, is he going to play USL? Why? What they did is, they're technically, like I said, these two are technically, they're the same ownership, but they're technically two different entities. And so they're basically, they are loaning Adi from this entity, which is Football Club Cincinnati, to FC Cincinnati of the USL. And that's why there is a chance that if the USL approves this transfer, because I think there's a problem right there. It's not made official because the USL has yet to actually approve this. Yes.
Well, because it's a little bit different than ones that have happened in the past. We had Kaká come in to Orlando City before Orlando City was actually an MLS club while they were still USL. He was a member of their MLS roster. The difference was he wasn't loaned to their USL club. We saw it with, I can't think of, LAFC stockpiled players that they signed that didn't come play for them right away, that played with their MLS club. So it's interesting, though, because in all fairness to FC Cincinnati, this should be fair and should be allowed because, as you said, they are two technically separate entities. Even if they are owned by the same ownership and come next season, they will be the same entity. But for right now, they're two separate entities. Because they're smart enough to basically take advantage of that loophole, I don't think that they should be penalized for that. I don't. I think this is fine. And we're only talking a half season.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it because, I mean, they are boosting their attack. And by the way, yes, he does bring up a point. I did see that as well, but the problem is this all depends if the USL approves it. If they don't approve it, they're looking for Montreal for the loan.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how, if it is approved, how Adi does in the USL. And you're probably looking at FC Cincinnati winning the USL Cup before moving on to MLS. Oh man, it's gonna have to deal with those fans.
That's basically pro-rel if you think about it.
I'm trying so hard not to hate FC Cincinnati fans.
And you know what? The thing is FC Cincinnati in general has been a very good USL club. I'm still sad to see them going up to MLS because they were, and I said this on your show, and I've said this on Generation Orange, they were the poster child, if you will, for a top elite level USL club. And I understand that most USL clubs want to aspire to be MLS clubs in the future. I get that, but basically, by MLS bringing them in now, it's basically saying if you're a top level club, we're going to give you the best opportunity to advance to MLS.
Yeah, and then another thing is like while USL is planning to put a cap on teams, there's nothing like that in MLS.
No.
So
well, there's not, but there is. I mean, there's not a verbal number. There's not a written down number. But Don Garber knows what that number is in his head. I did see somebody say, and it might have been Alexi Lawless, and I can't believe I'm about to quote Alexi, but he made the comment today to Pro Rel people, and this was interesting to me. It got me thinking a little bit. It's interesting because if MLS was to create two separate divisions, MLS 1 and MLS 2, and then were to buy USL or basically pull USL into their ranks and turn them into MLS 3 and MLS 4, all part of the MLS thing, and then have pro relegation within that, how would pro rel people feel? Would they be like, oh, finally we have pro rel? Or would it be, oh, it's still MLS, we can't do that? That's a really deep question with a lot of
honestly, a lot of pro rel people are at the same time anti-MLS.
Exactly. But it's a very, very pointed thought because it makes you think, what's their real argument here? Is it really that they're for pro relegation, or is it that they're just against MLS? What is their real passion here?
The term that they use is a closed system.
Yep.
They want an open system in which different leagues, independent leagues, are part of that
Absolutely.
pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting because it just highlights the almost level of hypocrisy there. That it has to be exactly the way that they want it, and anything other than that just can't meet their expectation.
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I don't know. So with that said, it is time. It is almost 9 o'clock. This show seriously has flown by. I am just
hashtag make it 3. No, please
not
don't put
tonight.
that.
It's not happening, guys. Just so you know, don't listen to Edson. It's not happening. We don't have 15 tiers in the U.S. You're not wrong. We have like 5 though. With that said, though, we really are going to close down shop for the night. But, guys, remember, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, unless there's a Dynamo match, we will air. We start at 7 p.m. Central on this YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Share this video. Share the channel. Help us spread the word. The more that you guys spread the word, the more that we can get guests on like Andrew Wiebe, the more we can get guests on like Jesus Acevedo, the more we can do some of the things we're trying to do, which we're trying to do some pretty cool stuff. I want you guys to know. Shout out to Cisco. We're trying to do some really cool stuff. And if this stuff can come into fruition, you guys are really going to have a fun time with this.
Yeah, and it's only possible with your help.
Absolutely. Exactly. And just know that you guys coming in here, you guys supporting us by watching, you guys supporting us by tweeting it, by retweeting it, by sharing it on Facebook, by telling people about it, by coming and hanging out with us at away watch parties, by hanging out with us during matches, by hanging out with us before or after matches, whatever it may be, it really does make a difference. You guys are the reason we do this. You guys are the reason we put in the time and the effort and the commitment to this. And trust me, it is really a full-time job on top of the full-time jobs we already have.
Yes.
We're going to do everything we can to help elevate this as much as we can, as fast as we can, but it really does require you guys continuing to support us and continuing to do what you're doing. And so just I want to say truly, as much as I can say it appreciatively, thank you guys so much for everything you're doing. It's paying dividends. It's paying off. We really are on the cusp of some really freaking cool stuff.
And not only for Generation Orange, but also please support Down in the Valley and
Absolutely.
Down in the Valley Gaming.
Absolutely.
If all three little entities flourish, it'll help each and every one of them.
I'll quit my freaking job. I'm just saying. No, in all seriousness, though, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Down in the Valley Gaming channel, follow the @Down in the RGV, follow @Gen Orange Radio. And also do us a favor and follow Andrew Wiebe @Andrew_Wiebe, and follow Jesus Acevedo @Jesus_Acevedo Jr. They really will appreciate it. And again, that looks favorably upon the show and helps us, basically pull in more guests as we go along. I hope you guys really enjoyed this show. We enjoyed having you guys. We enjoyed this show so much. We enjoyed preparing for this show. We were as excited as we were probably more excited than you guys were. knowing that we were having Andrew on, knowing that we were going to have Jesus on. We were just expecting it to be an amazing show, and without a doubt, those two delivered, completely knocked it out of the park. With that, even though it's a little early, I think it's okay. We can end a little early and play some music and let these guys enjoy the little bit of party that's left.
All right. Have a good night. We'll see each other tomorrow for Down in the Valley, and next week, next Tuesday, Generation Orange, once again, at 7 p.m.
And remember, forever orange.
For Houston Forever.
Somos Toros.
Hashtag We Are Todos.
And
TF on.